Department of Ship Technology. We have joined together to witness the 7th episode of the series of webinar in association with Dostas related to naval architecture and shipbuilding. For the 7th episode, we have Mr. Suresh Manu, Principal Engineer and Project Manager at DNV Singapore. He is the 21st batch alumnus of the Department of Ship Technology. Now it's my honor to invite Mr. Suresh Manu to lead us to the webinar on the topic Classification Societies and Insider View.
Thank you. If it is correct, Aravind, right? And thank you all for attending this webinar. Nice to see that all of you have joined. Okay, let me share my screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you seeing the right screen now? Or is it the presenter view or screen seeing?
Both screen are visible, sir.
So you are seeing the presenter view, is it? The presenter view?
No, we are seeing your both screens, so probably it's not in the presentation mode still.
Okay, so you are seeing the presenter view as well. So maybe I'll stop sharing. I'll share in other way. Just a minute. So are you seeing the presenter view now? Two screens?
I know it's one
Yes,
screen now.
one screen.
Sorry, it's only one screen. Okay, thank you. Then I will start my presentation. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me into this presentation. This is the title of my presentation, Classification Societies and Insider View. Just a minute, I need some more settings to be corrected. Otherwise, it will be difficult for me. Please hold on for a minute. Okay, I think I'm good now. Yeah, so this is the title of the presentation, Classification Societies from an Insider View. And I hope most of you will learn something new today, because I've tried to include some insider information which is not available easily in the public domain. What you're seeing from the screen right now is some class surveyors doing drone survey, which is a hot topic these days. So this is the agenda. After the introduction, I will go to the maritime regime, what it is, and then I will move over to the classification societies, its histories, objectives, class cycle, roles in classification societies, survey methods, yeah, etc. and etc. I just want to let you know some of my opinions in this presentation is based on my experience in DNV. There are other class people here, they may not agree with it as well, but I believe major class societies are similar in a manner that most of these can be applicable to them as well. A little bit about me. I graduated in 2001 and then worked in Alcock for a year and then 5 years in CSL. So if there are anyone from CSL, my namaste. It's kind of alma mater. Okay, I joined DNV in 2008, lived in Norway, Dubai and Shanghai, and then joined DNV Singapore since 2010. And working there. My experience is in shipbuilding, design review, classification and regulatory compliance, marketing and business development for class, and project management for ships and MOUs. So currently I'm focusing on FPSOs, FSOs, and FLNGs, and working as the DNV PM for a large FPSO project for Brazil. About my company, and I am quoting from DNV's annual report. So DNV is an independent expert in risk management and assurance, and our purpose is to safeguard life, property, and the environment. The keyword here is independent because DNV is 100% owned by the DNV Foundation, which is considered as a valuable asset by many of our customers. In 2013, and DNV and GL merged to form DNV GL as the largest classification society, which we are even today. And in March, we changed back our name to DNV after the acquisition. More about DNV. It was founded in 1864, have offices in more than 100 countries, a customer base of 100,000, and an employees of about 12,000. It's headquartered in Norway with a group CEO, and then subdivided into 6 different business areas, each having its own CEO. So the maritime is all about class. Then there are energy systems, which is dealing with oil and gas and renewable energy verification certifications. Digital solutions produces software for all these business areas, and also selling to open market. Then supply chain and product assurance is all about healthcare assurance, offshore aquaculture, classification certification, and things like that. Business assurance is all about management system certification, like ISO 9000, 40,000 certifications, 14,000 certifications. And accelerator is something else. It's acquires companies or partnership partner with companies, rapidly growing companies with innovative products in the assurance market. Maybe it's good to let you know that DNV has released its energy transition outlook 2 weeks ago. So it's an independent forecast of the world's most likely energy future up to 2050. And it may give an idea about the opportunities energy transition can bring to you and which sector will be in focus, etc. So if you're interested, please, you can use the link or the QR code to download this document. So that's for the intro. Let's move on to our business. I will go to the introduction of maritime regulatory regime. So this picture gives you an overview of the maritime regulatory regime. So UN at the center with the United Nations Convention of the Laws of the Seas and close there, and then IMO, formation of the IMO, formation of the ILO. IMO deals with developing conventions, developing and updating conventions related to maritime safety and pollution, whereas ILO is developing and updating conventions related to the maritime human resources conventions. So they develop conventions, and then there are member nations who think some conventions to be ratified. And then when they ratify, it comes into effect. And once it comes into effect, then how this becomes a law. The member nations then pass these as law in their parliament. And then once the law is there, then there should be somebody who should enforce this. So who will do that? So that's where the flag state and the port state come in. They form the flag state and port state. In India, it's DG Shipping. Port state is the MMD, Mercantile Marine Department. So what do? So the flag state register the ships in their flags. So basically, an Indian ship registered in Indian, registered with DG Shipping becomes an Indian flag, flies an Indian flag. So then it becomes an Indian ship. And then it makes sure that the ship complies with international or national laws and regulations, because the international law has become the national law now. Port state is all about identifying substandard ships at ports. So it's about ships coming into the airports. It could be foreign ships or it could be Indian ships. And they can detain the ship if they found some problems, etc. Both the flag state and the port state do not, most of them do not have the resources to do the inspections on board the ship. So what do they do? They entrust classification societies or the recognized organizations, mainly the classification societies, to do surveys on board the ship, inspection on board the ship, and certify them to be compliant with international or national regulations. So this is, in a nutshell, the maritime regulatory regime. For the slides, basically are some information about this, publicly available information. You can read the slides or go to their website and read them. I'm not going to go deeper into this, but the key thing here is that IMO doesn't have an operational role. So who has an operational role? They only develop conventions. The operational role is with flag state and the port state, and then the class as recognized organizations. Yeah. Port states, how do they enforce and how, on what basis? So different zones like Europe, Asia, like that, different countries have joined together to create a memorandum of understanding for port state control. So for Europe, it is the Paris MOU. You can see the cyan color. For Asia, it is the Tokyo MOU, the orange color, etc. These are the IMO instruments, about 40 conventions and about 800 codes and recommendations. And recognized organization, as I mentioned before, is recognized organizations such as class is entrusted by the flag state to do inspection on board the ship on their behalf. Yeah, and compliance with IMO conventions is ensured through plan approval and technical surveys of the vessels. And when everything is okay, they issue statutory certificates as evidence of compliance. So this is a code of conduct of recognized organizations. So they verify compliance, and they are responsible and accountable to the administration for the work they carry out on the administration's behalf. They cannot interpret these regulations alone without the permission of the flag. So for example, a ship owner think that some regulation is not applicable, they want a deviation or an exemption from that regulation, they want to approach the flag. But normally, if the flag, when it is entrusted, recognized organization is entrusted, they want the application through the recognized organization. So especially during construction, so the customer submits the request to the class probably already knowing that this is acceptable from their experience, but the thing is that they cannot accept without the confirmation from the flag. So what they do is they write a recommendation note and forward the request. They review, write the recommendation note and forward this to the flag, which then review class recommendation, accept or reject. So that's it. Recognized organization alone cannot reject or accept. These are represented or included in the agreements with the flag state and recognized organization. Coming over to classification societies, how they came to exist. So in olden days, maybe 260 years ago, trade was increasing through ships. Accidents were common, and insurance premium were pretty high, about 1/5 the cost of the ship itself. So ship owners needed insurance to reduce their economical risk. And insurers needed someone to establish the safety standards for ships and to rate or classify the condition of each ship. So that's how Lloyds Register, the first class, was born in 1760. And then there was subsequent classes formed. So you can see LR 1760, BV 1828, RINA 1861, ABS 1862, DNV 1864, GL 1867, and then merged with DNV into 2013, NK 1899. These are the 18th and 19th century classes. About IAX, it was founded in 1968. Consists of 11 members of classes, as you can see in the screen. So they publish unified requirements between classes, unified interpretations of the requirements, and unified procedures between classes. And they are considered as, they help to develop and interpret statutory regulations, and is considered as the principal technical advisor to the IMO. But IACs do not involve, acts normally involve only in the technical matters of the members, do not involve in the commercial activities. Objective of classification. So what's the objective of classification? So the objective of classification is to verify about what? Ships, hull and appendages, propulsion and steering systems, power generation and related auxiliary systems, and make sure that essential services are maintained. The purpose is for the safe operation of the ship. So that's the objective of classification. So you can see it is more about safety and safety here, not about beauty, I would say. What is classification? So classification is nothing but it's a compliance of the design and the vessel itself with the rules developed and published by the classification society. So the class verifies compliance with its own rules. Sole is a sole interpreter and have the sole responsibility for own rules, and alone decide whether to accept any equivalent solution of the rule requirements. So this is in contrast with the RO, where the RO cannot alone decide the equivalent arrangements, acceptance of the equivalent arrangements. It has to get the acceptance from the flag. Whereas class, if it is equivalent arrangement on class, then class alone can decide. How it is done. So what is the class cycle? How it is? As you can see, research and development. So class societies do research, act on feedback, experiences, and accident investigations to come up with rules. And then they publish them. Shipyard gets the order from the owner, and yard in turn gives the order to the class for the class contract. And this is a major milestone. Thereafter, the yard submits drawings to the class. So there are two types of approval, at least for DNV. Vessel drawings, that is the drawings submitted by the yard, and equipment drawings, that is the drawings submitted by the equipment manufacturer. So at the time of after the class contract, equipment manufacturers who are supplying equipments to the ship also has certification contracts with the class, and Through that, they can submit equipment drawings for plan approval. Second step is surveys. So there are two surveys: vessel construction surveys, where basically the survey is at the yard for the vessel construction, equipment, and then the equipment manufacturing surveys, where the survey will be at the equipment manufacturer's facility or factory. So, you can imagine there are, normal ship takes about, I don't know the Korean case, but at least more than 1 year, or I have seen more than 2 years normal practice for in Singapore, because Singapore is more about more complex ships, the mobile offshore units. So it is 2 years here in Singapore. So the amount of work that is going in is tremendous, and the plan approval is tremendous, survey is tremendous. There are so many activities. So after all these are completed, the project manager of the class then reviews all these activities completion. The comments are closed, drawings are approved, equipment certifications are completed, surveys are completed, all are satisfactory. Then at the time of delivery, he issues the class and statutory certificates to the vessel. And when the vessel is delivered, the ownership of the vessel is transferred from the shipyard to the owner. So note it, the owner till then was the shipyard, and now the owner is the actual owner. And the vessel enters into the service phase. So the requirement is that vessel has to be surveyed every year, once in every year. That is called annual survey. And then there is a requirement that the vessel has also to be surveyed intermediately. That is between the second annual survey and the third annual survey. One survey has to be done. That is called intermediate survey. So the extent of annual survey is less. The extent of intermediate survey is more because of the duration. And then after 5 years, there is another survey called renewal survey, because it's called renewal survey because the class certificate is valid for 5 years. So after that, it has to be renewed. So how to renew it? This is by doing the renewal survey or special survey, as called by some other class societies. The extent of survey is even more. And if everything is satisfactory, ship still continues to comply with the requirements, class issues renewed surveys for another 5 years. So that is how the system goes on. And during this time, say if the life of the ship is 25 years, the ship owner or ship manager gives feedbacks to the class. Okay, something has happened, there is a crack here. So are you sure your rules are meeting or has addressed this issue already, or is it some other issue? Please take note of this. Sometimes accidents do happen, and then there will be accident investigation reports. And all these surveys through 20 years or 25 years of the ship, there will be experiences also gained by classification society. So all these contribute towards updating of the rules in addition to class own research. So the rules are getting updated. For DNV, it is every year in July, updated rule version will be coming into force. And it should be similar to other class as well. Yeah, so this is the class cycle. Okay, so now I will move on to some of the job responsibilities inside the class. Insider information. So in DNV, we have plan approval, similar to other classes, or different names, plan appraisal, LR is using plan appraisal, etc. Who does this? This is done by plan approval engineers. And what is his primary duty? His primary duty is to review designed documents, drawings, and calculations to verify that design comply with class and statutory requirements. There are other internal duties or external duties like technical support, business development, market development, rule development, etc., etc., etc. There are so many. How is a typical day for a plan approval engineer? Say, for example, a plan approval engineer, after the contract, yard submits, yard and class agree on a set of drawings to be submitted to the class. And when the drawings are ready, it is not ready all at a time. It will be ready batch by batch normally. Then the yard submit these drawings into the class approval online portal, and the portal channels it to the right engineer, plan approval engineer. There are in DNV, there are so many disciplines, plan approval engineer disciplines like structural, stability, load line tonnage, electrical instrumentation, piping, systems, safety engineering, etc., etc. So depending upon the discipline of the document, it goes to the right engineer. It's like we have our own online system, and then we can see that jobs are coming in. So normally it is a queue system, unless some documents are being prioritized by the customer. So if the engineer, so for example, I decide to approve the cargo hold drawings and calculations. Okay, what I do is I open the job, I find the calculation report of the cargo hold drawings, cargo hold analysis, and I review it. And then I see that if I see that the document quality is very good, pretty happy with the content and the quality, etc., I may choose to do a spot check. I will extend my spot check based on my spot check results and things like that. And then I get satisfied that, okay, the calculations can be trusted. Or in some cases, there may be some, my spot checks may result that it's not so satisfactory. So I may decide to extend my calculation review. So I may decide to do an independent calculation. I can get the model from the client. I can verify the model. I can check the loads. I can run the analysis myself, and then I check the results from the analysis is matching with the results provided in the calculation report. So yeah, so that's this one example of how the hull structure review happens. So then the calculation has been verified. Then the next task is to verify between the calculation and the drawing, whether the drawing is containing the same information as the information provided in the class calculation, whether the thicknesses used are the correct thicknesses, the grades used are the correct grades, etc., and etc. So it's a kind of a very focused and tedious process. At the same time, other jobs are coming in. So and then there is a fear of missing out if there is like fear of something hiding somewhere. And then timely completion, because you have to finish the job within a specified time agreed with the customer. And maybe you will be having a lot of meetings to clarify comments and review the solutions provided by the customer, and so on and so forth. So that would be a very mentally tiring day. And then the next day, come back and do the same thing again. So yeah, so that is plan approval engineer's job. What could be the career progression? The career progression could be like, I'm just saying typically engineer, becoming senior engineer, becoming principal engineer, then becoming senior principal becoming vice president, becoming senior vice president. So that is how it is in DNV. Or then he decides to change the career track to say, I want to be a surveyor after 10 years of working as plan approval engineer. Then I can choose that path. Or I want to be a consultant. Then I can choose that specialist path. Or I want to be a manager. Then I can choose the management path. Yeah, this is specifically for the students. So probably you are interested in the career. The next role is a certification surveyor. So this is about the primary duty is to ensure that equipments and their design are complying with the rules and regulations. So similar to plan approval engineer, they also have internal responsibilities. How is a typical day? The typical day is something like, when the certification contract is signed with the client. Client provides initial documentation of inspection and test plans, etc. Then the surveyor reviews these documents and agree with the customer. Okay, these hold points, I will come and visit you and survey your equipment. So that is being agreed. And in the meantime, remember, there is equipment drawings is being plan approved. That is already done, being done. So at that pre-agreed time, the surveyor visits the shop or workshop or factory of the manufacturer and does the survey to make sure that the equipment is manufactured according to the approved plans. So that visits can happen multiple times, depending upon the complexity of the equipment. And remember that equipments are fabricated or manufactured globally. It is happening everywhere. Class is utilizing their local surveyors for these purposes mainly. Yeah, and after all these surveys, there will be a factory acceptance test or some kind of testing, which is being inspected by the surveyor if it is required under the rules to inspect. And he comes back to the office, reviews all these records, test records and everything. If he gets satisfied himself, he gets satisfied that the plan approval comments has been closed and everything, then if he is satisfied, he issues the certificate. And you can see a type approval certificate in this screen, and there is type approval certificate and there is product certificate. The difference between this is type approval is used for mass manufactured equipments like, say, a life raft. The design is the same and may be used for different hundreds of ships. So then what they do is that at the beginning of the manufacture, they just do the same thing, but only on a prototype. But for the product certificate, say for an example, boiler, which is just a custom made boiler only for that ship. The actual survey has been carried out on that product itself. So we give the product certificate. The role of new building surveyor. This is the one that yachts are seeing. He's the one that yachts are seeing more often. And his responsibilities is to make sure to survey the ship construction and make sure that ship construction is according to class requirements and statutory requirements. So how is a typical job scope and work day? So after the class contract is signed, which is a major milestone, I mentioned one of those slides, he does a yard assessment to make sure that the yard has capabilities and to assess the yard's capabilities and its quality control system, whether they are able to produce a quality product. So that is done. And then he reviews the yard's inspection and test plan, welding, NDT, and other fabrication procedures. So these two instruments are used to define the extent of survey. So he used this extent, those two instruments to define the extent of survey. So say, for example, the yard is very good in certain certain aspects, certain type of fabrication or inspection or whatever. Then we don't need to give too many attention there. But there are some other areas, maybe the yard may not be that good enough. So then the surveyor decides to focus on that part specifically. So it's on a need basis of a mix and match. So based on this ITP, then surveyor continues the surveys, because a yard is keeping on fabricating blocks, pipe spools and piping systems and so on and so forth. So he does this according to approved drawings. So that's how it is. So he comes to the office. Probably there will be a planned survey. So then he attends the planned survey. If there is no planned survey, it's called unscheduled inspection, then he just goes on for a patrol. That I will be explaining in the next slides. And this go on for 1 year, 2 years when the ship is completed. And the project manager of the class organization then reviews all these activities, plan approval, certification approval, certification of the equipment, survey of the vessel. And if he's satisfied, finally the class and statutory certificate is being issued. So different survey methods. This is I thought this should be included because there is a lot of misunderstanding what is the scope of class. So IACS defines 3 different survey methods: patrol, review, and witness. So what is patrol? Patrol is the act of checking on an independent and unscheduled basis. So whatever when the surveyor does is he does it based on an unscheduled basis. So the shipyard workers probably may not know that surveyor is coming out of the blue. He just appears and he just starts surveying. So there is a surprise element there, and make sure that things are going as planned. And so that is the benefit of the patrol. Review is all about reviewing the fabrication documents by the shipyard. Say, for example, the NDT inspection records review. Yard does NDT inspection by its quality department, and then that is how the welding is accepted. Then surveyor reviews those records, whether the NDT has been done according to the correct agreed procedure, whether the acceptance criteria has been met, whether the failure rate is acceptable. Say, for example, the failure rate is 10%, then it means that there is a problem. Either the welding engineer, the welder is not good enough, or the NDT, just for example, NDT technician, probably there is some issue. Then there has to be an investigation why there is a high failure rate. Normal failure rates are something like 2 to 3%, 5%, etc. Yeah, so that is the benefit of the review. Then comes the witness. Witness is actually physically be present in the area where the test or inspection is agreed. So that is witness. Most of the tests and commissioning, it's all about witness. Typical new building project setup. You can see all the blue is in the class project organization. The green is the shipyard. There is a project manager who is a single point of contact with the shipyard and who is responsible for the classification project itself. And then under him, there is a project manager approval. Again, I'm talking about DNV, how DNV runs it. So there is a project manager approval who is the project manager for the approval activities. There is a certification coordinator who coordinates globally the certification happening around the globe, whether the correct certificates are being issued, whether the certification is done according to the correct rules and regulations, etc., etc. And then there is a site manager who is a leader of the survey team. So this is a typical NB project setup. I think maybe I thought of also emphasizing the independence of class here for a traditional shipbuilding concept. So if you remember, Mr. Pramod, who is my classmate as well, presented Korean shipbuilding, and he said there is a conflict of interest. There is a seller, which is a yard, and there is a buyer, which is the owner, and how the conflict of interest comes. Seller wants to get higher prices, whereas buyer wants to get the item at low prices. Seller or the buyer wants something like say, for example, Rolls-Royce for the price, whereas the seller is thinking about, for the price, I can give a Toyota. Yeah. So then, yeah, there is a conflict of interest. So class has a role of an independent third party between owner and yard. And what class does is to verify that ships meet certain agreed requirements between owner and yard. So there is an agreed requirements between owner and yard. Say, for example, I want my ship to have these class notations. I want my ship to have these kind of certifications, etc., and etc. So this independent verification is done by the class. And you can also see the normal communication line. Owner communicates with the yard. He normally do not communicate directly with the class. I'm again talking on a traditional shipbuilding concept, classification concept, where the class contract is being given from the yard. So class is communicating only with the yard. If class wants to communicate with the owner, then it has to be through the yard. So it has to be through the yard. Similarly, the owner has to communicate with the class, then it has to be through the yard. Yard has to know what is happening between them. So that's it. And there may be some very rare occurrences when the class may directly communicate with the owner. And that situation is when, very rare situation when the class think that the yard is not following certain requirements, and it is posing an imminent danger to the ship. You see, the owner finally takes the possession of the ship and he has to operate. So we have to inform in that situation because the ship is having an imminent danger. So that is a very rare scenario that I have never come across in my career. Yeah, but it can be there. Okay, so I have described the new building project. Now I move on to the in-service phase, the role in-service surveyor. So obviously the ship is now operating, and as you know now that there are annual surveys in dry docks or in water, etc. So his duty is basically to make sure that during the in-service phase, ship continue to comply with the international regulations and class requirements. So the typical day for him will be a survey being booked from the ship manager or ship owner. He gets the booking in his online system, and then he has to when the ship arrives at the port or wherever it is agreed, he has to go and visit the ship, and then he has to survey based on the extent of survey agreed. If it is annual survey, there is a defined extent. If it is intermediate, there is a more extent. If it is renewal, extent is much more, or there may be occasional surveys for other matters. So he does all these surveys, and then if it is annual survey, he just gives an annual survey report, or intermediate survey report. But for the renewal survey, after the renewal survey, what happens that, remember, the class certificate is being expired. So after the renewal survey, if everything is satisfactory, he reissues the certificate for next 5 years. So yeah, so that is it. And then probably from all these surveys, there could be comments for action and comments for information. So comments for information will be, we call it memo, just for information. Okay, this is going to be expired very soon. Please take action in the next survey, something like that. And then maybe something, some serious defects, he probably issues a condition of class, CC, or a condition of CA, condition of authority, CA, which is against a statutory requirement. And there is a timeline. The ship has to comply with this or rectify the defect. Otherwise, the ship might lose class. So yeah, so that is how it is. So a typical work day probably will be like getting ready to go to the survey, that will be prepared in advance based on the extender survey. What are the key areas to be checked, etc. and etc. Checklists will be there, and then he has to go to the if it is anchorage, he has to go on what do you say, a boat, and then has to be dangling in rope ladder, trying to get into the ship. Or once he's inside the ship, probably inside the tank, he will be rafting around inside the tank to see to survey. Or maybe he will be heli dropped on board the ship, etc. And or he will be like doing a trapeze activity on the ship structure. So all these things. Yeah. What class do not cover? Okay, a policeman with no sign. So just want to say that class is not a maritime industries policeman. That is what is being we are trying to say here. Why this slide is included, because there is a lot of confusion among customers that they think that once class review everything, everything is okay. That's probably may not true. Class review is limited. Say, for example, it doesn't review every structure or every equipment or review every plan. So it is all based on a sample, random sample basis. And class may not visit the ship every, maybe visiting once in the once every year. So in between, it's the ship owner's responsibility to make sure that class the ship is operated in a safe manner. Yeah. So and what class is looking at is mostly focused on the safety of the equipment and not the beauty of the equipment. So yeah. How is it working? How is it like working in class? So again, this is for the students. And this is just my experience. There may be different experiences for different people. Yeah, but I'm stating my experience. So the pros are most of the major class are surviving for 200, 150 years. They are quite established organizations and international workplaces. So they have the systems and best practices. So you have the chance to work in such an organization. And then class is basically an advisor to many of the organizations like IMO on statutory regulations and how to interpret them. So it is recognized by the governments and the industry as a knowledge center. So you have a very good chance of developing your knowledge. And obviously, I do not need to say about highly competent colleagues that class has. So that's a very good advantage for a youngster to develop his knowledge. And then there will be hands-on training and competition development, vast and varied projects, large customer base and experiences. So a large customer base and experiences also means that you are dealing with a lot of customers who are exceptionally expert, exceptionally expert in their own field. And then if you're working with them, that means you are getting some part of their expertise as well. Then you will develop safety and risk management focus. So yeah, when I joined class, I didn't have this, but later you know why some requirements are there. What is the safety reason behind it, and then slowly this becomes imbibed into your personal life as well. So say, for example, if you are traveling, in advance you start to think what could be the risks that you have to mitigate, and then you unknowingly take action to mitigate it. Yeah, so that's the personal benefit. And then obviously travel and sailing, visits to interesting places. otherwise not possible to visit as a tourist, yeah, etc. Cons, obviously, as I said, they have been there for a long time. They are a well-established large company. So if you think you are a genius and you want to make a revolution in the company, sorry, class is not that place for you. And I think this is true for any large organization, established large organization. Of course, there are some certain avenues for doing so. Like for DNB, we have the annual startup summit, something like that, where you can, the genius can apply and get it in. Once get in, probably he will have a 1 month workshop to do with similar minded people as a team. So there will be different teams, and then you can develop your project. And they will select 3 projects which will be actually be implemented in the company, and you will be provided mentors and fundings, etc., etc. So I mentioned survey booking. Smart survey booking was one of those application developed by one of those genius in Singapore. So yeah, so it is there, but if you want to have quick results and you want to develop your own project and all these things, build a startup. Don't come to class. Yeah. Narrowing career path. Again, this is true for large companies. Large companies, they have specific responsibilities for specific people. So that means you will be doing the same thing over and over and over and again. So means you will be becoming an expert, but your spectrum of experience is coming down. So unless you take yourself to get wider spectrum of experience, like if you say I worked for approval engineers, now I want to work as a surveyor for 10 years, I want to work as a project manager for another year, now I want to work as a consultant, I want to work in management. So if you don't take your own initiative, you will basically become like specialized, too specialized. And in my opinion, in the future, people do not need too specialized people. They of course there is a role for them as well, but I think people, if you remember Tesla's boss, he's probably not an engineer if I am correct, but he reads his spectrum of experience and knowledge is so wide that he can connect between different knowledge domains. So he is able to connect the opportunities in different knowledge domains and bring up with new ideas. I think that is what is going to be in demand in the future. Probably, I don't know. That's just my opinion. Low focus in human element, comfort and aesthetics. I already said class is focused on safety and not the beauty. So for example, we are receiving certain sometimes some drawings which are perfectly okay with respect to safety. It complies with all the statutory requirements, class requirements, but how to make it? Probably this is actually both the points I'm talking about: low focus in human element and not a fabrication operation expert. So if we come to that situation, yeah, a class will not give a comment because the requirements are met. They don't care how it is being manufactured. That's responsibility of the yard or the owner or the customer. So that focus is not there, and since that focus is not there, we are not an expert in that part. So the owner superintendent is more focused he has a focus on the aesthetics because he wants his ship to be good so that he can attract talented crew to work on his ship. A yard is a fabrication expert. Nobody can replace yard's expertise in fabrication. Class is not an expert there. So if you want such expertise, yeah, you can choose owners or class or designer. Class is not a designer, so class just verifies. So if you want design experience, join a designer. Travel, inconvenient and risky. Yeah, after the initial honeymoon period, when you're young, travel is very nice. But when you have a family and you have children, this can become inconvenient. And nowadays travel is risky as well. Coming to, I think this is the last slide probably, the future of class. So what is the future of the class? Whether class will survive or not? My opinion is class is going to survive. Class has survived for 200 plus years, and it has done so by innovating based upon the industry demands. And if class continue to do so, class will survive. The industry needs an independent verifier, so that demand is always there. Yeah, so the future is of class is always bright, in my opinion. Coming to the future of the industry, there are a lot of things that is being developed nowadays, which I'm listing here. Maybe I can go to some of this. I will be focusing what the class should do, or class is doing there. Autonomous ships, like it is. This is an old idea now. 5 years ago, it was new. Now it is being developed, but the thing for the class is whether is the class and the statutory regulations ready for autonomous ships. Probably no, because the SOLAS, if you look at the SOLAS, some of those sections refer that certain things like the ship has to employ a safety radio communication officer in distress. So the rule or regulation says that someone has to be employed in the ship, whereas the ship is autonomous. So how is it? Yeah, so I think class and statutory flag state or IMO is working. They're working on this. Digitalization has already happened and still continuing to happen. For example, DNV in 2017 started issuing all its certificates digitally, and smart tagging using blockchain to avoid creating forging certificate. So each certificate has a blockchain tag, and that can be verified through the online site. So yeah. So almost like 50 flag state has accepted the proposal, and DNV does not issue paper certificates anymore. 3D model design approval. This is has been in the discussions for some time, and I know that ABS has completed their first 3D model design approval very recently. So this is going to come. 3D printing. It's an old idea. In the development, DNV and obviously the other class is working on it. DNV has a guideline on how to accept 3D model manufactured equipments. You see what is so convenient about this. A ship comes to repair in Singapore, wants a spare part, but if the spare part can be 3D printed, it doesn't need to wait for the manufacturer in Europe to send it through ship to get it. So it is going to contribute a lot in CO2 reduction. Yeah. Sandwich construction. Yeah, this is already there. Instead of steel, the corrosion of the steel. Say, for example, ship is coming and repair. Steel has been corroded, plates has been corroded. Instead of cutting the plate and removing and putting it a new plate, they can use sandwich panels to strengthen the shell plate. Say, for example, that's one use of it. Remote working, this is already happened in 2020, February 20 onwards. I'm working from office, and that was amazing. That just happened seamlessly, so seamlessly. And remote surveys also, again, so seamlessly it happened. Fortunately, at least for DNV, we were investing on this before Corona, but we did some tests and prototypes, etc. But it was successful, and that's it. It was not used, but from February 2020, you are asked to work from home. You are asked to do surveys from home. So how can you do? And amazingly, we could do this. So yeah, so that's the benefit of investing in technologies. Drone surveys, hot topic these days, already happened. Yeah, also with many other class societies. DNV has a drone survey unit in Singapore and is doing drone surveys, like hundreds of drone surveys annually. Now, risk or condition-based survey scheme and Internet of Things sensor-based survey scheme. This is about, the ship is being surveyed annually, and but some of the equipment may be very good or underutilized. It doesn't need a periodical inspection, say as short as annual inspection. So what we do, we employ or fit sensors on board the ship, on the equipments and on the hull. And then there will be live feed from the sensor data. And we can, from the sensor data, we can obviously, that is also the second topic, big data. We'll do the analytics, and then we will decide whether the equipment or the hull health is okay, is acceptable, and whether it does need to be taken off from the survey extent, annual survey extent. So that is already happened and will be under development. Big data, I already said, quantum computing, increasing the strength of, or the calculation ability of computers by using connected computing. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, yes. What we are using for artificial intelligence? Say, for example, we started in 2016, something called DATE, Direct Access to Technical Experts. So this is an online portal where the customers can ask questions to us. But the beauty is that the artificial intelligence will read the question and analyze based on the question. It routes the question to the correct engineer to answer. So this is one of the use that we are employing at the moment, working very successfully from 2016. Virtual reality and augmented reality. If you remember Pramod's presentation, you know already about virtual reality, but I'm talking about augmented reality, and I think this is going to be really, really big. When an inspector, class inspector or a shipyard inspector goes and for inspection, he has to take the drawings and he has to see, and he has to correlate with the structure or piping or whatever. But here he wears a goggle and like a Google Glass, and as soon as he looks at something, the system projects the 3D model onto the actual structure, and then he can easily know, oh, what is that? Say, for example, what piping system it is, and what fluid is going through the piping system. If he looks at a structure, then he immediately knows about the plate thickness, what material grade is used, what is the paint used, etc., etc. This is amazing. And then, if you want to measure between 2 points, he just clicks there, it's automatically measured. And once all the survey, like all the well joins done, he just does a tick. System recognizes that he has done it, and then he captures a photo and then saves it in the system. That part is inspected. Wow, this is amazing. This is going to be really big, in my opinion. Blockchain, no need of any introduction. Cybersecurity. In 2018, Maersk had an NotPetya attack. NotPetya is ransomware, and all the global IT system of Maersk is shut down or is stalled. Maersk is doing like 30 to 40% of all the containers worldwide shipping. So you just imagine what is a disaster that is. So Maersk lost about USD 3,000 million in recovering all the systems. So that is only Maersk's loss. What about the world's loss? So just imagine that. And when all these things are coming in, autonomous ships, digitalization, 3D model approval, 3D printing, remote working, Internet of Things, everything is being connected. And then cybersecurity is the utmost important thing that we need to be focused on. And class and regulatory bodies are aware of it. They are working on it. We have DNV. I think last year we have a class notation, cyber secure, which is aimed at handling these issues. Then we'll use the 3 ones: emission control, decarbonization, sustainable ships, renewable energy. I'll just sum it up. Basically, that this is high on the agenda for all the countries. Emission control to reduce the greenhouse gases emitting from the ship and mobile platforms. Sustainable ships reduce the environmental impact of shipping by reducing the fuel usage, by using alternate propulsion methods like wind power, assisted wind power. Then using alternate fuel technology like fuel cell, green ammonia, green methanol, etc., etc. So this is also under development. Again, I think we all need to have regulations how to regulate these advancements. So in short, the future of glass is going to be bright. And by the way, if you want to know more about the trends of the technology that is in demand and is trending, DNV has released DNV Technology Outlook 2030, which is basically gives an idea about the emerging technologies up to 2030. So you can, if you're interested, you can use the link or the QR code to download and read this. Yeah, so that's it. Basically, that was this is my last slide. That's all I have for today. And thank you so much for your patience and listening to me. I will try to answer your questions if they are easy, but otherwise I can try to find the answer and come back to you later.
Thank you, sir, for a wonderful session. Now I request everyone to look at the chat box and please fill up the feedback form provided there. Now we will be having a question and answer session. Please feel free to ask questions.
Can I tell something? Alex here.
Yes, please.
Yeah, Suresh, I think you have given a good overview of what is class, the surveyor's roles, and so many other aspects of class. But what I have to tell the students, don't be under the impression that a class surveyor's job is a very, very glorified job. In early 70s and 80s, okay, the class surveyor was the king of the industry, but I don't think anymore. In fact, he has to oblige to the owners, whims and fancies, maybe the ship managers also, because finally the class also has to survive on the money aspects of it. And if a class is being tough, of course, the owner has the option to change the class. So what the class surveyor used to command in earlier days, it's not now these days. What do you have to say about that, Suresh?
I don't have anything to say, Alex.
Yeah, because I myself was a BV shipping service surveyor long time back. I mean, my experience, of course, I mean, like, okay, if we had a stiff, competition between GL and ourselves when I was in Dubai. When GL refuses some ships, we used to take it, and when we used to refuse some ships, GL used to take it, and then again, when both of us used to refuse it, IRS used to take it. That's the International Register of Shipping. So finally, what the ship owners wants, he wants a certificate for the international voyage. That's it.
Yeah, I can add a little bit more information to that one. At least for the major class, as the 18th and 19th century classes, they are considered as the major classes, and their performance is being evaluated by the port state control regime. And the major classes are the detaining of the ships in port state is very, very low. Whereas the classes mentioned by you, Alex, probably not, the performance is not very good. So if the ship owner is very focused on...
I like to differ with you. Do you want to say that GL and BB were of a lower standard?
I think you should know that GL is now DNV, and
yeah, okay, that's why I asked you the question.
BV is the major class, so I included them as well.
Yeah, because what my experience as a shipping service surveyor, see, for example, a bulker of Panamax type, and if it's a 10 years old, and when you have a renewal survey after 10 years or 15 years, you will have at least about 100 tons of steel renewal in the topside tanks, which, okay, as per the rules, if you go, you can make it up to 150, and as per your intelligence and your review, you can even reduce it by another 50 tons. So naturally, the owner would prefer that. Then again, without compromising the safety of the structure, okay, you can go ahead with that. But again, sticking the rules and regulations, it's virtually impossible for a shipping service surveyor to go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, I think we are deviating from the topic. I'm giving an introduction from an insider view, and that's my topic. I think we are deviating. So I think I better do not take this question anymore. And
okay, don't take that question. But again, my idea is to just give a clarification to the students that okay, a surveyor's job is not that an all glorified job as it used to be once upon a time, maybe in the early 70s and 80s, where I know, surveyor used to come and tell the shipyard general manager, dash. That's what it used to be.
Yeah, I agree with your. You are entitled to your opinion. Maybe we can go on to the other questions.
Yeah,
please.
sure. Thank you.
Hi, sir. This is Nishant from 43rd batch.
Hi, Nishant.
Yes, sir. Sir, my question is that you had mentioned that flag actually authorizes the classification society. So, does the flag actually pay the or give some reward to the classification society? That is my first question. And second is that in the future, if the flag decides to do the surveys themselves, then what is the future of class?
Okay, very good question, Nishant. First of all, it's about trying to get the job. It's basically you want to do something for your house. I'm just saying an example. Keep it clean and everything, but you don't have the resources to do it. And basically, class is the flag is appointing the class to do the job. And from where the class is getting money, the class is getting money is from the ship owner or the shipyard. So it's not from the flag that the class is getting money. Yeah, so there is no fees or reward from the flag, but instead class is getting the fee from the ship owner or from the shipyard or from the equipment manufacturers. Yeah. Second question was if the flag decides to do it themselves. Yeah, there is a possibility, but I do not think that is a very near possibility, because many of the flags in the world, they do not have the resources to, or offices in 100 countries or all over the ports to do all these inspections of ships coming into those ports. So yeah, I don't see that as a reality that is going to come anytime soon. There are certain flags who want to do their jobs themselves, but obviously the ship owner doesn't want to go and flag their ship with that flag, because then they have to wait for the flag to come to the port, right, for inspection. So obviously that flag will never get a ship. But in fact, if otherwise, customer-focused flags like Bahamas, Singapore flag, Hong Kong flag, they are they don't have their own inspectors. They have their own inspectors for certain things like ILO related instruments, but for other things they are engaging the class as their recognized organization. Yeah.
Sir, Mr. Abhinav Jayakrishna wants to ask, what are the types of surveys conducted by the classification societies?
This was actually discussed in the slides. Again, if the question can be more specific, are you referring to ship construction, or are you referring to ship in operation?
Sir, ship in operation.
Yeah, ship in operation, obviously, what they do is that there is ship in operation rules for classes. And depending upon the type of survey, like annual survey, intermediate survey, or the renewal survey, there are certain things that needs to be verified. And that is the basis of the survey. Say, for example, bottom survey, it is a requirement that bottom has to be surveyed, maybe in dry dock. And then certain critical equipments has to be surveyed, things like that. Like, say, for example, anchor has to be inspected, anchor chain has to be inspected, cranes has to be inspected. So there are critical equipments which is listed. And this is also standard for all the IX class members. Yeah, so it is the rules are the basis of survey, actually. Is that answers the question?
Yes, sir. Sir, Mr. Kevin Cherian wants to ask, what are the points taken into account while a regulation is being passed?
This is something out of my expertise. I really don't know. Someone who is a member sitting in the IMO should be able to answer this question. But again, from a first principle point of view, it's all on the safety aspects. Yeah, that is all what I can say.
Sir,
because it's two general questions. Yeah.
Sir, Mr. Nahil wants to ask, how remote surveys
are done. Yeah. I'm just giving a very broad example. So basically, it is there are different ways. One is that we have the class has a digital model of the ship with us, and if it is a survey of a specific part, then the engineers sitting in the class office can run that in the computer, go through that one in the computer, and the same can be displayed in the ship where the ship's crew can see what is going through the screen of the class, and the class points out and asks them to inspect that particular part, and send them the video. It is basically through video actually. So the engineer sitting in the class office can through the video see the condition of that particular critical part through the eyes of or through the video taken by the ship's crew. And then he gives instructions to check this and that, etc., etc. Takes snapshot of the condition, all these. So this can be done through manually as well, but then it becomes cumbersome. So there is an app which will help to do that. Yeah, this is just an example. Does that answer the question?
Yes, sir. So Mr. Vimal Kumar has raised his hand. Would you like to ask questions?
Yes. Hi, Suresh. Thank you so much for a lot of insights and
Thank you very much.
very insightful. My question is related to the error which happens based on the judgment taken based on the intuition or gut feeling. Like you have mentioned about the spot checks. Like if you look at the recent investigation report came for the airline crash in Kerala, I think there was also element of complacency that the captain was so much experienced, but the decision was taken rather logic. It was taken based on intuition. Similarly, there are a lot of accidents still happen, like what has happened in the Suez Canal. It's very common still. I mean, and probably it will be there in the future. So the thing is that how to control it, how to take any judgment based on the logic rather intuition, or limit the judgment based on intuition and maximize the judgment based on the logic. So the question is, how I mean, personally, I mean, your side, how do you limit the error which is related based on the intuition?
Okay, Vimal, probably you are referring to the word spot check I used in the calculations. I have a few points to raise here. First of all, we have to be clearly acknowledge what is a class scope. Class approval doesn't mean that the drawing is safe or the vessel is safe. We are just doing a spot check or a sample check to the extent that we can be satisfied that the particular item being checked is safe or not. So that is one thing. So that is about the scope of class. Second, I want to highlight is that every class most probably will be having, at least in DNV, there is a rule that every critical item has to have two eyes reviewing, say for a drawing. So if it is a critical drawing, then if I review, then I have to sit with another guy and I have to convince him that these are the things that I used. Spot check is it is kind of you do the spot check, you probably get a matching result, then you are happy at that part, then you advance into a spot check of other area, then you will get a good result, you're happy, and then you are moving on and until you are happy. But if you along the way, if you get unmatched result, then what you will do, you will increase your scope of review. Okay, why not I got a bad result here, so why not maybe I just checked some other area again. Is it okay, or is it that was an outlying result? So like that, and then I have to convince the verifier. So there is a safety barrier there in the design review. Similar, there are safety barriers also in survey, and survey itself is a safety barrier for the approval engineers. So there are multiple safety barriers within the class, and at the same time, the scope of class is to be acknowledged. It is not meaning that the item is 100% safe, and that responsibility lies with the designer, the yard, or the owner, whoever is actually creating it. Yeah. Was that giving you the answer, Vimal?
That's a very insightful. I think yes. I think the important thing is that there should be a balance between the judgment taken based on the intuition and logic. So I think yes, it does. Thank you.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, you mentioned about the new building surveyor, that who will check whether the yard is capable of building that new vessel.
Yeah.
Then, sir, usually the ship owner will ask the yard to build a ship. Then there will be a conflict will occur between the ship owner and the new building surveyor of the classification society. Then how it will be mitigated, sir? That if the class society told that the yard is not capable, usually the ship owner will ask the yard. Then only after they will decide which classification society or like that.
Okay, I'm not clear about the question, but maybe I'll try to answer. Our ship owner is investing millions in building the ship. He's not going to, just go and throw his money on someone who cannot build a shipyard, isn't it? So whenever you want to buy something, you will be thinking, it's your money, you will be thinking a lot, and you will be doing a lot of risk analysis and all those things. What if the yard is not able to do that particular thing? So even before the class says something, the owner already know whether the yard is capable or not. So yeah, so this issue hopefully doesn't arise. Was that your question, Arjun?
Yes, sir. That if the owner there is a vendor, then owner give that vendor to a shipyard, and after that the shipyard after that they give that class they give it for class approval, and then the new building surveyor told that the yard is not capable of building it to the ship owner. Then there will be conflict of the sir.
You mean a ship owner has given a contract to the yard who is not capable of building a ship, is it? And then surveyor saying that to the owner that the yard is not capable of building the ship. If that is the question that you asked. Remember, a class is not directly communicating with the ship owner. So that is there. And these informations, etc., will not happen contractually. These things happen, through some other ways, not through official channels, because class cannot, according to the contract, give that information about the yard to the ship owner. But I'm sure there will be other sources that will be giving it.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Hello, this is Rahim. If I may, I am from class NK.
Yeah,
if
I know you, sir.
I may chip in some information. Normally, different class societies operate different ways. Normally, before a class society goes into a yard, they do a check on the yard and the yard's quality system. and then only the class goes in. So this is the normal procedure that we follow. So if the yard is not competent enough, normally, I mean, class won't go in.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah, that's correct.
And also, I want to make one more clarification about Mr. Vimal Kumar. He asked about intuition in arriving at a judgment. But normally, class surveyors don't act based on intuition. They act based on sound technical knowledge. Of course, this is subjective depending on the surveyor. If it is a less experienced surveyor, I mean, he sometimes may be finding it difficult to make a judgment. At that time, there is always a backup. His manager or someone who is experienced, but he can always access them, and they will advise him what to do. So normally, a surveyor never does judgment based on intuition. So it's normally based on something what do you call something solid technical background. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahim sir.
So Mr. Advait Vijayan wants to ask, what are the basic levels involved in classification?
Basic levels involved in classification. In the olden days, there was several levels of rating of ships, but at the moment, all classification societies have most of them, as I know, is just only one level, and that is just satisfactory and safe.
Hi, sir. Good evening.
Hi.
Sir, I would like to ask, what would you recommend? Is it better to start your career with a classification society or to think about one somewhere down the line?
I cannot recommend this thing. Obviously, this is your decision. It's I also agree with Mr. Alex's opinion. It's not a glorified job. It is a difficult and tough job. It is really focused on technicalities, and you will have to do everything again and again. There is a lot of pressure coming from different people. So there are those are the cons extra, but there are pros. Obviously, although some people say that it is not that good or etc., but it is accepted by the governmental agencies and worldwide as a knowledge center. So if you think you can improve your competence by from the class as a knowledge center and its highly competent colleagues, then probably this is one of those locations for you to work.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That comes to the end of our question and answer session. We are very grateful to Mr. Suresh Manu for making this webinar session a very informative one. On behalf of SNAS, we would like to present a token of gratitude for being with us in all the department activities. It will be shared on your screen now.
Thank you so much. And thank you all of you to attend this seminar and raising your opinions and asking questions. Yeah, that's all. Thank you so much.
This marks the end of the 7th episode of SNAS webinar. I hope you all enjoyed the webinar. On behalf of SNAS, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Mr. Suresh Manu for taking time from his valuable schedule and making this a very informative webinar on this special topic. I especially thank Mr. Rahim A. Participating in this webinar, all other members of the Dostas office bearers for helping us conduct this informative webinar. On this occasion, I would like to thank Professor Dr. A. Madhiragan Chodi for being a constant inspiration. I would like Last but not least, I would like to thank every faculties and students who put a sincere effort to attend the webinar and make it a grand success. Thank you everyone for your overwhelming response to our webinar. We apologize to those who couldn't attend because of the participant limitations. We expect this support and encouragement in all our future endeavors as well. This is our 7th episode and more is in store for every one of you. And always feel free to contact us for feedback. It's highly appreciated. Our 7th episode of the webinar has been concluded. Now you all may leave the meet. Thank you.
Thank you so much.